appreciate you taking a few minutes here to talk to me.
No problem.
Um, my first question was a few weeks ago when we had talked about what is Senate Bill 1176. I
Mhm.
kind of talked to you and said, about how there's going to create a dark money issue there. And you said that you didn't think you'd be voting for it, and then you voted for it. Can you explain what made you change your stance there?
Yeah, yeah. When I talked to the sponsor and dug into it a little bit, I don't see it that way. His concern and mine would be the same. This concerns 501c3, and the example he used was, and he cited some issues they've even had it in California, where donors to Right to Life, as an example, uh, when it was disclosed who they were, got targeted by people, and they went after them, and they went after their personal businesses and everything. And that was not the intent. Shouldn't be the intent of this stuff. And because that seems to be growing, Mike made a heck of an argument that we better put some provisions in place for protection. It's not about trying to hide something, but people are starting to get pretty mean about what's going on here. And when people are investing or putting money into these things, which they have every right to do, people aren't looking looking them up to try to have a conversation with them. They're going after them. And if that's the case, then I certainly support not letting them do that.
Does that, doesn't that restrict some of the powers that the Attorney General or the new Attorney General will be having when they are put into office?
Not in the way that Mike describes it. If you go to a judge and if there's some corruption or something going on and you can prove it to a judge, you can get a warrant and you can open them up that way. And as long as it goes through a court system and a judge gets to see it, I'm okay with that. I'm comfortable with that.
Okay,
But I'm not. I mean, I'm not. And we talked about that before. I'm not comfortable with political people using it simply for an attack, and that's always been a concern because that's what I witnessed with even our own finance campaigns when we disclosed that. Like I said, 14 years, I don't remember one citizen coming to me and looking at it, but I do remember political people on the other side of the aisle picking somebody out of the list and coming after, which that's part of it. I understand that, but in these cases, it's not. It's not. I didn't. Those people didn't run for office that are trying to push and help a cause, and so I think we've got to be protective of them a little bit.
and why would something like this not be passed sooner then?
Good question. I don't know. I didn't. It wasn't anything on my radar screen until Mike brought it up, Mike Shirkey, and as like I said, talking with him, I think he makes a heck of a case.
All right, and so I want to ask you about the bill that you introduced, Senate Bill 1211, and
Mm-hmm.
what, in your opinion, made you want to introduce this bill, and especially now in the lame duck session?
Well, for us, it's just timing because if you go back and look, you'll see a three-bill package I moved out and was able to get it to the governor for his signature, where we reformed the whole process of the rules process, and we reformed and put a review board in where the average citizen has recourse to go back and air its grievances if they've been wronged by the government. And all of that is tied to this. We also have a two-bill package that's been moved. It's on the House floor right now. Uh, Senate bills, I think they're 100, 101, but I'm not quite sure. I think those are the numbers, but they are loser pay. They too are tied to this, and the whole purpose behind all of it, when you package it all together, is to protect the private citizen and certainly the private landowners um, from being aggrieved by the government. And the government has gotten away with this for far too long, and uh, this is just the finality of it. And all this does, it pretty much keeps things in place that are already there. In fact, we already revised it. We went back to the 5 acres. We were comfortable with that. But if you read the rules are very clear about what meets and what doesn't meet the criteria for someone to use their wetland, what would deem to be or look like a wetland. As long as it's 5 acres, they're allowed to use it. The problem has been the last paragraph in the rules package that cites um, discretion that the field rep can use. And it says if they deem there to be any environmental impact or problems with the environment because of you doing something with that wetland, then they can stop you from using. Well, that's up to we're leaving the whole thing up to them then, and that's unfair. And they're taking, in my opinion, the rules and throwing them right out the window, and they're making up their own. They're making it up as they go. And I got case after case. A challenging committee. Guy said the case that I cited in Curtis with the elderly couple. He looked into it. He said they settled and they agreed to it. You know where he got that? He got that from the department, because that's what they're saying. You know why they settled? They settled because they were scared to death of the department, and they paid the ransom of $2,000 if this problem they were given goes away. They thought they were within the rules. I think they were within the rules, but they didn't have the horsepower to fight, and they were scared to death. They'd lose everything at 82 years old, and that's what my government did to them. And that's just one case that I could sit down and talk all day long about. Farm field over in Stonington. It just goes on and on. And this is...
For clarification, are you talking about the Department of Environmental Quality? The DEQ?
Yeah,
okay.
The DEQ. Yep. And so and I got to tell you, I talked to the media down here today, and see the Detroit News had an article in there. It says something to the effect that my bill wants to drain the wetland. Well, I got to tell you, the way that's being reported, they've already formed an opinion. They already know, and they don't have all the facts. So it's pretty discouraging, and I apologize if I'm coming across like, because you have been very fair to me, so I'm not trying to blame you. I'm just saying, the way this is being reported, anything the environmentalists say is deemed to be truthful, factual, and there's no discrepancies, and it's not getting questioned in any of it. And if we say it, then we're the radicals, because we have to be, because we're challenging what the environmental community is saying and what some of these departments are saying. That's not right. Because I wish we could talk about the facts and really get down. I'll give you an example. They've been talking about the thousands and thousands of acres this is going to affect. The only way they can get to the number, and I think they might have quoted a number of 70,000. Don't quote me on it. I'd have to go look to get the exact number. But the number they quoted is very large. And so if people were reading that article, I think if you thought wetlands were important, you'd look at that and go, wow, that is aggressive. But the truth is, most of that acreage is up for grabs right now as far as use under the rules as they exist today, except for the fact they have changed the rules by using their, quote, discretion. But the other part is, I would ask, and nobody's asked the question, is it really up for grabs if the state owns it, if the federal government owns it, if the Nature Conservancy owns it? There's not one of those three groups I just mentioned that would, the minute my bills pass, would run out there and say, okay, guys, just go ahead and fill in the wetlands. Feel free. Just fill them in. That's absolutely ludicrous. Yet that's exactly the numbers the environmental community is using. They're using all land. And what we're focused on is the smaller private citizen that has a small parcel of land, which is far less than what they quoted. That's what we're up against with this thing.
Was there anything in place in the bill or that's in the rules right now that does protect the public lands from anything like this happening, or that's like a quota where we need to keep X percentage of our wetlands just for environmental health or benefits or anything like that? Or I'm just trying to understand why something like this would get so twisted in other reports if there was something in place that said we needed that.
It's not getting twisted. Well, it is, but the problem is they're not being asked the question to clarify. That's the problem. Because if they had to clarify it, the average citizen is smart enough to say, wait a minute, the state, the federal, and the conservancies, those groups, would never let people go onto the property and just willy-nilly fill in this 5-acre parcel over here because they want to fill it in. They're not going to do it. So why then would the environmental community tabulate all that acreage as if my bill now puts all that in jeopardy? How can it explain to me how it can be in jeopardy? They can't, and they won't because they're not asked. They just get to use the number, and it looks pretty impressive, and it's really something. The other thing is I've got the sponsor of the bill, and I haven't just been so busy or haven't had time. I apologize. I'm going to try and find it. If you guys want it, I'll get it to you.
Yeah.
The sponsor of the original bill that ultimately put this 5 acres in place for some relief to the citizen so that the government just didn't come in and wipe them right out and say, your land no longer can be used because we deem it all a wetland. There was a provision put in, which we talk about a lot today, that's there today. The sponsor of that bill called me, and I have never met him. I had no idea he was the guy that did that. He called me Monday night on my way down to Lansing and did nothing but praise and thank me for bringing up the bill because he said, I sponsored the bill, I was there, and the intent of that bill was to protect the citizen from exactly what's happening right now because the government and the environmental community have taken over this thing through the rules. And they are going beyond and way beyond was his word, what his intent was, and this is exactly what needs to be done. It's what he told me with what we're trying to do. Now, I say that because if we want to get to the truth of what's really happening, why wouldn't the DEQ and the environmental community be asked about what was the intent when they originally did this? If Casperson has a problem with how they're implementing what's going on here, why? What's his beef? What's his problem? They are not asked, and they're not asked because then they don't have to explain it. They can just simply say, I want to destroy all wetlands, which is totally a lie.
Mm-hmm. I guess I'm trying to answer a question. I guess the only thing I could think of about something like this and the way that it is being portrayed from what you're telling me here is that, like, in Marquette we've had some public land sold for commercial use and that sort of thing, especially down by the waterfront. Mm-hmm. I imagine that there are some people that get scared, like, oh, well, if they can just fill this in and sell it off for some commercial use, and that would cause a problem, especially for a lot of people that enjoy or environmentalists in that sense. But that's why I just didn't know if there was anything in place that said we have to have X amount of acreage for this, especially on the public lands.
There hasn't been, because it would be the last thing on the planet the public entities would do. When you mentioned the sale of land, great example, because it shows you what I'm driving at is, if we're going to toss out, not you guys, but if people are going to toss out words like radical, and that's what I'm being accused of, is I'm a radical that wants to destroy wetlands. That's true. Then how, just taking the question you just asked me, which is a good one, then how do we explain this, that state government for sure, and I think you'd find the same thing on the federal level, and I know you'll find the same thing on the conservancies, I mentioned all three of them, in the last 10 years have not decreased in land ownership, they've increased. Even with, you cited selling off something, so they sell something off. If you take a look at what they've owned, they continue to grow. Prime example would be Chippewa and Luce County. They purchased 3,600, the state did, 3,600 acres of lake frontage, paid a premium price for it. We were trying to open up 160 acres of state-owned land for a small business over there that was a huge tourist attraction, which was the Oswald Bear Ranch. The environmental community fought us tooth and nail and said, you can't do that because you're destroying the pristine outdoor experience for the Michigan citizen and all people, and we can't allow that. So let me get this straight. You just picked up 3,600 acres, and they own 54% of Luce County, by the way, the state does. 54%. And they picked up 3,600 acres of pristine lakeshore frontage. And they couldn't let go of 160 acres concerning the community's economy, really, because Oswald Bear Ranch helps drive Luce County's economy over in the Newberry area. There's no doubt about that. Mm-hmm. So that's why I'm so confident when I tell you that for the environmental community to make that argument, they're pulling smoke out of the sky. They know they are, but the average citizen doesn't because they're not being asked that question. And nobody's telling them, well, wait a minute, the government's buying land far beyond what they ever sold. And quite frankly, it's the DEQ, the state government, that's so protected. So how do we think that somehow we ruin or fill in, because I shouldn't call it ruining, I don't see it as ruining something, but how are we getting to those numbers, and how are we getting to this idea that anybody that would question how they're treating the citizen is the radical? It boggles my mind. Radical is scaring 82-year-old couple over a small little chunk of land that wasn't more than an acre, and scaring them that they're going to lose everything and making them pay $2,000 ransom to have it go away. That's radical.
Yeah, and I agree, and I just want to, I guess, just to sum it up, I believe what you're saying is this is more about just protecting the private owners, and so that it's their land, and that there can't be too much overreach from the DEQ or the state government on what they're capable of doing with their land.
Exactly right, and it's more about the small guy, the little guy, and the small amount of acreage. That, you know, I might own a 40 out of a 40, and I have this little tiny chunk of 3 acres of wetlands, and I can't touch it, even when it meets the criteria that was passed before I got here that said it was okay to touch it. Why? Because they changed the rules so that it gave the field people discretion. That's why we're fighting over this, is because of that discretion, and I believe it has been abused. That's radical, to abuse something like that. And to really, there's another point here. They're going beyond the legislative intent of the bill to start with. Nobody's questioning them on that. That's inappropriate. That's the downfall of our governing the minute we start doing those kind of things, or allow those kind of things. If the DEQ doesn't like the fact that 5-acre provision was put in there, then the DEQ and whoever the administration is should change the law. So the lawmaker that called me, they should have changed his law, not put a rule provision in there that gave them that flexibility to go ahead and just go around it. They should have changed the law, but you know what? The citizens, again, are smart enough to know you're going too far. So instead of bringing it to the people, they did it through the department. The environmental community didn't go to the people. They went to the departments to get them to change that rule so they could get their way and stop us from using our property and using wetlands as a means to do it.
All right, I appreciate you talking to me. I just have a couple quick little questions here. I know I've taken up a lot of your time now.
No, thanks for letting me vent.
Yeah, no, it's all right. I want to get clarity. I want to report on this. And this is another thing. There's a lot of discussion on both a local and kind of a national scale right now about Michigan and Wisconsin. There are bills that have been introduced that kind of take away power from the like the attorney generals and the governorships that are happening. I'm not going to speak about Wisconsin as much because I
Mm-hmm.
you know, I'm a Michigander, so
Sure.
this is what
Yep.
is important to me. And but there's a bill that I believe is in committee right now. That's Senate Bill 1252, which shifts oversight of campaign finance away from the attorney general and goes to a panel. And there's another one that is, I think it's in the House Bill 6553, which allows the Senate and the House of Representatives to intervene in legal proceedings, which is normally the attorney general or the governor's duties. And I just wanted to know what your thoughts are on these kind of moves, or if they're, in your opinion, they're being portrayed as not so much of shifting power from these positions.
Well, I don't know if you could call it shifting, or I guess you could. But again, the question would be is how did they get the powers? And I believe they would have been given legislatively to them, so the laws were set up and designed around who's got what and who's going to do what. That means the legislature has that prerogative. And so if the legislature has the prerogative to put something in place, they have the prerogative to take it away. And so in this particular case, this goes right back to the same question, and that is, um, instead of trying to do it through some gimmickry, through a law or through a rule or whatever, the legislature's doing it right up front. I don't know if they have the votes for it, but if they do, and I haven't heard a lot of debate over it yet, so I have no idea to say which way it's going, one or the other. But if they do and they do it up front, they're doing it through the legislative process, and I don't understand why that would be then turned into something as being a problem.
Well, I think, I mean, legal proceedings for the state has always kind of been the attorney general, and more of that realm as far as I've always understood it. So if there's legal matters going on between the state and other entities or people or whatever it may be, that generally has been
Sure.
the attorney general's position to take. And with
Yep.
that House bill, and I haven't read the whole thing, and I know it was either in committee or just got out of committee in the House, and so it might be a while or changed by the time that you see it. But
Mm-hmm.
if it's taking the power away from the attorney general to do that, or make it to where the Senate or the House intervenes in that situation, doesn't that seem like, and if this was a problem before, why was it not passed before? But doesn't that seem like it is kind of shifting the power from one person to the Senate, and obviously right now they're going to be, or in the new term, they're going to be different parties and
Mm-hmm.
different approaches to how they handle things.
Sure. And the legislature coming in, the new legislature coming in with the new administration, if they, and again, I don't even know if this is going to pass, but if, for the sake of argument, if it passes, the changes you're talking about, and it were to pass, they could turn around and say, we disagreed with that legislature and that administration, and they could change it right back. It's up to them to do that. I'm just saying the legislature has the prerogative, and we always have. And it's how the system was supposed to be set up, is set up, and we have the right to do it. I get what you're talking about, and I think some people would say, well, just wait till people are changing out. I guess I could argue that some of this is happening because of term limits, because the changeover is happening quickly, but uh, I've also come to the conclusion because of term limits, you better work right to the end because otherwise your terms are really short.
All right, and I guess just one final question here, and there has been a
Mm-hmm.
lot of commotion, and as you said, you've talked to reporters about different bills, and there's different things going on here. And what would you say is an overall takeaway that people should have from what's happening in the lame duck sessions right now?
Well, part of it is people need to do research and check it out, talk to people. Um, in all fairness, and again, no disrespect, but sound bites are not giving people the whole picture, and that's part of what we're up against and faced with. Period. And um, the people ultimately will be the judge, one way or the other. With all the things you were talking about, you and I have talked about, they should be the judge, and they should be judging based on what the facts are and the research that they find, not based on what somebody told them or just one side of the equation is what they heard from. You just can't have good governance like that. The people have to be involved and engaged, but they've also got to be fair when they do that and listen to everybody, and then form their opinion. Boy, if I could encourage people, please do that because the bickering and the fighting is pretty intense, and it'd go a long way in trying to get along if people got involved and engaged where they looked at and listened to everybody and then formed their opinion. And I'm quite convinced that nobody's going to agree on everything, but I think we'd be better off if we took a little time to dig in.
Well, I appreciate you talking to me, and
Yep, no, I appreciate it.
all right, I appreciate you taking the time out, and good luck in your committees and session today.
All right, thanks.
Yep, have a good one.